Well, today I have John Irvine with me. Hi, John. Thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure, Manny. Thank you. Thank you for asking me.
John, will you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Crikey, how long you got? No, no, I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not that interesting. What would you like to know? I'm 77 years old, and I've really only been a serious writer since 1996, when I came back from 29 years living in Australia. And that only occurred because I fell in love when I got back. I wrote them terrible love poems, as one does. And then it sort of progressed from there. We went our own separate ways, and there we go. I suddenly found myself early one morning when I logged on, and I hadn't had a computer for very long at this point. I logged on and discovered that somehow or other I'd become a member of a writers group based in Canada, which was interesting because I was stunned, really. However, the night before, I had quite a bit of red wine, so I could have done anything. It was lucky I joined something useful.
Exactly.
However, as a result of that, I met my current wife, who was living in Greece, English woman. And not only that, I learned to write, other than love poems.
Know that you do dabble in horror.
The fiction I write is mainly horror and some sci-fi. Horror's fun. You can do or be anything you like when you write horror. You can kill people without going to prison. I mean, what a bonus. And you can kill them in the most terrible ways. My first book, however, first collection, was a slender volume called Man of Stone, which is actually the name of the last poem in the book. And I didn't realize it when I put it together. But a good friend of mine said, "This is about you." I said, "Is it? Hey, what?" Don't ever even thought about it. And they were right. And I was lucky enough that a very old friend of mine had a daughter who was at art school, and I managed to con her into doing the most fabulous artwork, sort of artwork I like, where it's not classical. It's the first publisher I approached, New Zealand publisher. That was so good, so helpful, everything. And then they sold the business just as I was putting together a second book.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I do have a somewhat weird sense of humour, and I can have an odd attitude to life as well, and death for that matter.
You have a new
So,
book coming out?
well, a joint effort between my wife and I. She's a writer and poet, and it's a collection of haibun, Japanese form of poetry, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Man of Stone follow-up is called Stoned. No, it's got nothing to do with plants,
Good, good, good.
but it's a but it's catchword, and it follows on from. I didn't want any of this rubbish like Man of Stone 2 or the sequel,
Yeah.
But anyway, I've never felt the need to write a novel. I don't feel I've got a novel in me. I'm probably not patient enough. I don't know, but it doesn't seem important.
Yeah. You have to write
And
with what speaks to you.
now, when are you going to ask me the question that all interviewers ask poets? Go
Um,
on.
I don't, I truly don't know poetry.
Yeah, well, the
I mean,
question,
I
of course,
truly don't know poetry. I know like Walt Whitman or maybe Maya Angelou, but I don't I don't get it. And it might just be my because I don't like interpretation. Say, well, what they really meant by the cat was this, or what they really meant by this flower was this. I'm like, I don't
yeah,
enjoy that. So,
yeah, there's
but
a lot of metaphor.
yeah. So what's the question
Yeah,
of every author? Tell me what the question is.
that every interviewer asks.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Where do you get your ideas?
Okay. Well, where do you get your
Hmm,
ideas?
no idea. Having said that, if I go into a competition and there's a prompt or something, I can write to those. That's no problem, or pictures. But by and large, the ideas come as a couple of words, a line. Uh, last year, I was driving to a hospital for a test, and it's an hour and a half drive. And in that hour and a half, I actually wrote a song in my head. And not only did I write the song in my head, but I remembered the whole bloody thing when I got home hours later. And now I've lost it on my computer.
It's just gone.
Well, it'll be there somewhere, but I can't remember what it was called. And the search function on this laptop is very poor.
Oh,
So, or at least I haven't learned to use it properly.
got it.
Mm.
I
As
understand.
my wife, as my wife keeps telling me, I don't ever read anything like instructions.
Got it.
So, hey, I'm a bloke.
So you'll have to find it. You'll have to find your song.
Yeah, one day. Yeah, it'll turn up
Well, that's good.
when I'm looking for something else.
Right.
That's when things turn up. Anyway, to answer the question that you didn't ask,
Huh.
uh, quite a lot of ideas come to me in the middle of the night. I'll wake up, get up to go for a pee or something, and as us old people do, and a line of it's got no relevance to anything, including the dream that I might have been having. And I've learned that not to go and get pencil and paper and write it down. If I remember the word when I wake up in the morning, it's a goer.
Oh,
Now, that's probably silly, but that's what I do.
nice.
Hmm.
But everybody has their own method. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And then just to pop back on the books side of it for a sec, uh, three of us old crackpots, all in the same rough age bracket, put together a book called Buccaneers, Sonneteers, and Spittoons.
So like a
And if you
Western?
want, oh, it's a book of sonnets.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
We're all in the same. Well, I've had a poetry group online now since 2004, and these two blokes joined up along the way somewhere, and yet we all click together, the three of us. And if you have a look at the back cover of that book, there are photos of the three of us, and
That's cool.
It's a bloody good book. So what we did, we all like sonnets, even though we write other stuff. And both of them said, why don't we put together, what do we, oh, John, can you, yeah, right, okay, yes, I'll do it. So anyway, I sorted it all out, and we each wrote, I don't know, 20, I forget how many sonnets now, each, and put them in this book. And it's probably been the worst seller of any of the books that I've got. But a lot of that's to do with merchandising, I believe, anyway. But it's fun. I mean, if we don't sell anymore, it's fun. And we've just got another one waiting to be published, which is not sonnets, but whatever. And that's called Frog Spawn. Poems from a Murky Pond.
I like that. Well, thank you, John, so much for taking the time out of your day to.
This has been fun.
Is it morning where you are?
It is now 27 minutes past 8. I'm half an hour late for breakfast.
Oh, well, that's
mind you, I make my own.
You should make your breakfast. It's actually lunchtime where I am.
Take it easy, kiddo.
You too, okay?